Alert Trax is sponsored by Can-Am. The ride says it all. Polaris, the hardest working, smoothest riding off-road vehicles. And by Yamaha Motor Canada. What kind of Yamaha are you?
My background in motorsports started off with my uncle a long time ago. He had a three-wheeler and he threw me on the front seat and we went for a ride down the road and I was like, go faster, you know. I was super ecstatic, you know, with just him giving me a ride. So then after that, I was just hounding my dad, hey, we got to get a four-wheeler, we got to get a four-wheeler, we got to get a four-wheeler. And time went by and he ended up buying kind of like this 125 Ranch quad with no suspension, and man, I rode the wheels off of it. I put thousands of miles on this thing, and you know, we'd wear the tires out to there was nothing left, you know. And I don't know, I'd say 17, I turned pro on a dirt bike. I had just been racing dirt bikes the whole time, and my friends had just bought these ATVs, and it had been years since I'd ridden one, you know, just ranch quads around the house. Well, they said, Bo, come with us. And I'm like, are you sure? And they're like, yeah, dude, come with us. You know, we just got these quads. Let's go, you know, to this race. So I was like, all right. And so they come to pick me up. They're like, you get your gear bag. I'm like, all right. I was kind of timid at first. I rode basically a stock ATV to a 4th place finish in a works race. I came home with a pocket full of cash, and at that moment I just decided, well, maybe I'll off my dirt bike and pick up a four-wheeler, and so I did. By the end of the year, I finished top 3 in points, and the next year I got picked up, and I've had a ride ever since. So for like the last, I think it's been about 4 or 5 years now, I've been just racing ATVs, and it's been real fun. Ever since I got on the line the first time, I've had this want and this desire to do better each time I go out. You know, I can't really pinpoint it, but if I don't go, like for a few weeks at a time, I have like serious withdrawals. For some reason, I need to line up on that gate no matter what, and I hope that doesn't die out anytime soon because I really enjoy what I'm doing right now. It's super important for me to pick a good bike, and I think our whole team agrees basically agreed on Hondas because they're so reliable. A lot of our racing has to do with just the bike holding together, and I think that the Honda is #1 as far as durability goes. A couple times a year I put on you know, riding schools for some of the kids that are a little bit slower, and even the faster ones too, because they're still, you never quit learning. I'm still learning myself, and so I try to help teach as much as I can. Watching some of the younger kids and looking at the starting gate and this and that, you know, I'll drop a couple hints to a kid, or if I see something messed up on his bike, I'll say, hey, you know, you need to fix this. I'm willing to help the new riders, you know, the riders that are coming up, because in my mind, I think, you know, that I can help them, and in doing so and helping them, I still think that I have an advantage, because even if they know as much as I do, I still feel that I'm going to be able to like put more time in and more effort and work harder to beat them regardless, you know, even if they're coming up to race the pro class or whatever. I feel that there's always more to give. I feel that they deserve every advantage that I have, and I should just beat them straight up. The most important thing you can do is take your time and learn slow before you speed up. Once you jump on a bike and you start doing things the wrong way right off the bat, it's hard to go back and fix it. Luke looks pretty good out there today. You know, like I think with a little bit of different body positioning, I think he'd definitely be able to click a couple seconds off of his lap. As we worked on it, he got better, and then also just being a little bit more aggressive on the jumps, I knew was going to help him out. So it's better just to learn right and take your time and go nice and slow, one step at a time, and work through your cornering and your jumping and stuff before you're just like the kid that's out of control, slamming into the turns and looping out off of jumps and stuff like that. I mean, The main reason why ATV racing is so appealing to me is not only is it fun, but the families and the friends and the people that are out there supporting ATVs, it's really, really tight niched, and like all the families and all the people that are out there are awesome. It's very important to me that this whole ATV thing continues.
Hi, I'm Cody. I'm Luke and AJ's neighbor. I've watched Luke and AJ do hundreds of test rides, but I don't think either of them could fit in the Razer 170. So I decided I'd do the test ride on this thing myself. After all, I am the only one who drives it anyways, so I know more about how it rides and handles. Plus, I'm a kid and this thing is meant for kids. Before I go any farther, I gotta say our Razer 170 has a big wheel kit installed. I drove it around for about 5 minutes in stock form and it just wasn't fast enough. So I got AJ to order a big wheel kit. It has new wheels and new gearing, and now it just rips. I guess a stock 170 would be fine for new riders, but I've been riding my own ATV since I was little, so I could handle more speed. One of the things I like most about the Razer 170 is that it looks exactly like the big Razers Luke and AJ test all the time. It has a full roll cage, 2 bucket seats, headlights, adjustable seat and steering wheel, and everything. If you looked at it real quick, it would be hard to tell the difference. The motor is 170cc 4-stroke electric start and choke. It starts great when warm, but I usually need a bit of help getting it going when it's cold. Out on the trail, there's more than enough power to keep up with the guys when they let me ride with them. When I step on the gas pedal, the wheels will actually spin a bit, which is sweet. The only place I have trouble is on big hills. I could use a bit more power for that. Everywhere else I can go no problem. The 170 suspension is pretty good. It has a signal A-arm on the front and a swing arm on the back with 4 oil-filled shocks. I feel really safe once I'm in this thing because it has a full roll cage and 2 seat belts. The seats are comfortable too. Since there are 2 seats, I have room to pick up the girls. The little Razer has a transmission like the bigger ones. It has forward, neutral, reverse, which makes it easier to back out of the garage. When we first got this thing, I had a limiter set on it. It wasn't very fast, but it made it easier to learn how to drive it. Once I got more used to driving it, my dad turned the limiter down little by little until I got good enough that he turned it right off. Now I can really rip around on this thing. I can go on rough trails, I can slide into corners, I can even ride it on the test track. Luke and AJ say I have to be super careful at the track, and I'm only allowed over there when they are watching. But that's the rule no matter where I go, an adult always has to be watching. And so I think this is a good rule that everybody should stick to. Our Razer came with 2 helmets, a safety flag, and a sweet DVD. I always grab the DVDs from the Trax ATVs when they come in, so then I can watch them when I'm eating breakfast. Luke and AJ always say that you should never ride anything without a helmet, and I think they're right. Now I've got a 170 I never want to get out of. I'd probably take a blanket and pillow and sleep in this thing if Mom and Dad would let me. I know I'm getting to be a better driver and learning how to handle ATVs better. Maybe when I'm older, I'll be able to test the full-size Razers. Maybe Luke and AJ will give me a job.
They say nothing exceeds like excess. It takes a special kind of person to live up to this slogan. Somebody who can take way too much and turn it into just enough. It just so happens I have the perfect bike for this kind of rider. If there ever was an excessive ATV, Can-Am's Renegade 1000 Xxc is it. And in a class that is currently uncontested, it's not hard to be number one. But when you're number one by default, it's easy to get lethargic and stop innovating. This is certainly not the case with Can-Am and the Renegade. Last year was a big one for Can-Am and the Renegade. The all-new G2 chassis that found its way underneath the Outlander was also introduced in Renegade trim. The chassis on the 012 Renegade is not like any other ATV chassis on the market. BRP calls it Surrounding Spar Technology, or SST. Essentially, the frame is built around the engine and drive components using a mix of square and round tubing. All other components are attached to the perimeter-style frame. The G2 chassis addresses nearly every gripe we had with the older version. No stone was left unturned and no corners were cut. It's stronger, lighter, stiffer, and made from fewer components than the older version. This results in a vehicle that's smoother, more stable, and more composed than ever before. On top of the improvements made to the actual frame itself, the G2 chassis also incorporates a long list of geometrical changes to the suspension targeted directly at improving handling, acceleration, and braking. BRP calls it Geometric Contact Control, which is really just a fancy way of describing how the ATV and its suspension components interact with the ground beneath it. By optimizing A-arm angles and mounting points up front, lowering the pivot point of the rear TTI trailing arms, and adding sway bars, BRP has managed to greatly improve rear suspension squat on acceleration, front suspension dive during braking, and directional stability when cornering. Is it a huge improvement? Yeah, you're darn right it is. We liked the old Renegade more for what it was supposed to be than how it actually felt to ride. We like this Renegade because it's just plain awesome. Seriously though, once you sift through all the technical details and acronyms, you come to the two most attractive features of the Renegade and the two biggest reasons buyers choose this vehicle over anything else. Let's not beat around the bush here. Under its skin, the Renegade is, for all intents and purposes, an Outlander anyway, so why buy one over the other? Easy. Gnarly, pucker-inducing looks. The Renegade is and always has been one of the coolest looking ATVs ever made. Its high fenders, projector headlights, aluminum front bumper, and exposed handlebars with handguards simply look awesome. Little kids point, women sigh, and men get jealous. Even if you don't want to admit it, you Renegade buyers know I'm right. The second reason people buy a Renegade isn't any less impressive than the first. A vehicle that looks this mean had better deliver when the throttle is squeezed. So how's 1,000 cc's of V-twin grunt sound? Well, it sounds sick, and it feels even sicker. There is no question, from the very first second you pull the trigger, this ATV is not your daddy's Outlander. If acceleration feels soft, you better look down. Your wheels are probably doing a 10,000 RPM burnout and digging a hole to China. Get those sweet ITP hole shot ATRs to hook up, and you'll have the front bumper pointed at the moon faster than you can say, "Whoa, Nelly." I can say, in all honesty, the Renegade 1000 is the first ATV I've ever ridden that's so fast I can't even come close to riding it to its full potential. Half throttle is more than enough for nearly any situation you'll ever find yourself in. Excessive power? Yeah. Luckily, the ridiculous power of the Renegade 1000 is also extremely smooth and manageable. Throttle response is even and linear, and clutching is on the softer side, so keeping the front wheels on the ground when you want to isn't nearly as difficult as 88 horsepower would lead you to believe. You can get a Renegade with a 500, 800R, or 1000 under the hood, and the 800R and 1000 are available in base and XXC variants. Since we're talking excessive here, we went with the XXC model, which improves over the still very cool base model in a number of important areas. First, a set of fully adjustable Fox podium piggyback shocks are standard. These are what pro racers use and are more shock than you'll ever need, which means for you Renegade 1000 buyers, they should be just enough. Dual mode power steering is for wussies. That's why the XXC package includes tri-mode DPS, so you can more finely tune the level of assistance to your exact specifications. 12-inch hubless aluminum beadlock rims are lightweight and wrapped in a set of 25-inch ITP hole shot ATR radials. Finish things off with a sweet yellow-black color scheme and aluminum skid plates, and you've got what we consider to be the most excessive ATV on the trail. The Renegade Xxc is not for the faint of heart. The truth is, there are only a select few people who are even capable of handling this type of performance, and only a select few of those people will ever take this vehicle to its max. It takes a special person to make just enough out of way too much. The Renegade Xxc is made for that person. Nothing exceeds like excess. Think about it. Here at Trax, we care. We care about the environment. We care about the ozone layer. We care about bunnies and trees and stuff as well, but mostly, we care about you, our loyal viewers, and we care a lot about your ATVs. We also hope you're a lot like us, riding non-stop and racking up big miles on whatever four-wheeled conveyance you have at your disposal. With these thoughts and feelings in mind, and because we care so much, we thought we'd take this opportunity to remind you about some late-season maintenance items you may be neglecting or forgetting altogether. Probably the easiest items to visually inspect on your ATV, and definitely the ones that take the most abuse, are the tires. Have you ever stopped to consider what life must be like for a 25-inch Carlisle radial tire? It's not pretty. So take the opportunity to give your tires a good once-over, more than once in a while. Look for obvious things like excessive tread wear, cuts or rips in the outer carcass, missing lugs, or things like nails or thorns in the body of the tire. Then, take a closer look for things like cracks or bubbles. Tires wear out from use, but they can also weather and deteriorate over time before the tread itself is gone. A weather-checked tire is more likely to fail when you need it most than one that's simply worn out. Some ATVs have greaseless bushings in places like A-arms, swing arm, and spindle pivot points. Other ATVs have greasable fittings. If your ATV has bushings, use a jack to get the wheels off the ground and give the suspension a little bit of a wiggle. If it wiggles more than just a little bit, it's time for some new bushings, and replace them now before all that extra movement starts to wear out parts that are not replaceable and that cost a lot more money. If your ATV has grease zerks, grab your grease gun and give them a top up. I'm always surprised at just how little grease is usually in there. Bushings and grease fittings are something you should check even more often if you ride a lot in mud or water. Now that you're done groveling in the dirt, you can stand up and take off your seat. Internal combustion engines need fresh air to breathe. The fresher the air, the faster they go. Your air filter is what keeps fresh air flowing into the motor, even when conditions get sloppy. But like any filter, they eventually get clogged up. Once the filter's fully dirtified, you lose performance and run the risk of the filter failing and letting contaminated O2 into your engine. And just so we're clear, that is bad. Honestly, how long does it take to pop the top off your air box and give your air filter a little tickle to see if it needs cleaning? Not very long, so you really have no excuse to skip this step. If it's dirty, clean it. Your manual should tell you how, or when in doubt, I bet you can probably find a how-to video on YouTube. Most filters are cleaned the same way. If they can't be cleaned, they can be replaced. Many also have pre-filter covers that can be cleaned or replaced. And now we get to what is likely the hardest part of what we're calling your mid-season maintenance check, but what should really be an ongoing routine if you care as much about your ATV as we do. Your ATV lives and dies by its fluids. Just like your body, if the fluids are low or contaminated with gunk, your motor will either run poorly or die altogether. Checking your fluids is something your manual can give you more specific directions on, but in general, the process goes something like this. With the motor warmed up, take off your side panel and have a look at your coolant overflow bottle. If the fluid is sitting somewhere between the low and full lines, you're good. If it's low, fill it up. Next, find your engine oil dipstick. If your oil's used up, it will be gray or brown in color and can feel gritty or slimy. If it is done, change it or get your dealer to change it. This isn't an area you want to cheap out on. If your oil's simply low but in good condition, just top it up. These 4 areas of maintenance aren't too scary or technical. If you have enough technical understanding to ride your ATV, you have enough to check these things over a few times a year. By staying on top of these things and checking them more often than just midway through or later on in the season, you can identify and very likely avoid major problems that could cost you lots of cash and keep you off the trail.